Hey guys, I'm Samson.
My name is Deacon.
My name is Alina.
My name is Gloria.
And I'm Julia.
And I am Samuel.
I'm Kian.
I'm Ping.
And
We are the 99.
99.
99.
The
99.
99.
99.
99.
99.
The 99.
99. 99.
99.
99. Hello, my name is Eakin,
I'm Samson.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm Ping.
and we are
The 99.
And then just a reminder, we're called the 99 because we like this to be a Christ-centered podcast. A podcast to spread the word of God and to continue to encourage Christians to be deeply rooted.
Okay guys, today's episode is about gossiping in the church. And even though the Bible tells us not to gossip, as we know, churches there have people who notoriously gossip a lot. And there's no exact data on this, but a lot of people do leave the church because of gossiping. And there is a quote that we could find online that says, if we had as much prayers in church as we have gossip in the church, there would be a revival. So I want to get you guys' thoughts on this quote, and do you guys agree with it?
So the quote is, if there was as much gossip in the church.
There will be a revival.
No. Wait, what was your quote again?
Yeah. If we had as much prayers in
Okay,
church as we have gossip, there will be a revival.
I would agree that I think if there was as much prayers compared to gossip, because I'm just saying, every church is different. Every church, we all go through it, like how you're saying, where there's no data. But I feel like if we have as much prayer as we do have gossip, the church will, I feel like thrive even more or be more, like the quote said, more revived. And we wouldn't be faced with a lot of issues that we face today in our, churches.
I think that gossip occurs because we as a Christian fail to look at a person correctly. I think sometimes when we look at them and we know their faults, that's all we see in them. But as a Christian, it is our job to, while we acknowledge the sin, we need to see the good in people, and if we see the good in people and then we do love them and then we correct their ways, then we could definitely avoid gossip there.
Any more thoughts on this quote, guys? All right, well, my thoughts is this on the quote. What you guys said or explained earlier, I totally agree. Gossiping in the church, as we know, is bad. As we see in the Old Testament, gossiping causes internal strife and causes mistrust. And Jesus does say that we shouldn't be gossiping about other people, but show love instead. And and I think instead of gossiping, we should first find out the truth and then check the facts. But so when as leaders, they come, or people in the church, they come to vent or confide in or ask for prayer requests, we might have to draw a line somewhere, as you guys know. And we hear prayer leaders who also use prayers that they get from other people to as gossiping topics. So, how do you know what is gossiping and what is not gossiping? And what is considered gossiping? And then the third question is, what causes to gossip?
What was the first question?
Okay, how do you know what is gossiping and what is not?
I think gossiping is like when you talk about other people, right? But you do it with ill intentions, so it's almost like slander. So it has ill intentions. So when you say it, you might think that it's innocent when you tell someone else, but if you say it to other people and the person you're talking about, like, they feel negatively about what you did and they get negatively impacted by it, I feel like that's when it's gossip.
I agree. I think gossiping is, I think in the beginning people don't see it as gossiping because, you know, people just assume, oh, it's just something I heard. But if you heard it and you're the one like saying it to like other people too, and you know that you shouldn't, then I consider that as gossiping. It's like information that you know, or like words from another person, like not even a source, but you yourself feel the need to go and like spread it. Then to me, that is gossiping.
But I also think it's definitely hard to kind of draw the line, because assuming you don't have ill intentions, but, you know, it's a serious situation that does need to kind of be handled, or if the youth does need help. For example, what if she's, you know, accidentally got pregnant, you know? How are we supposed to approach that situation correctly?
I think I agree with you that it is hard to differentiate, but at the same time, I feel like nobody likes being talked about, right? Like, for myself personally, right? Like, maybe I'm weird, but I feel like whether it's good or bad, I don't like people talking about me because I'm a very private person. But I feel like you just don't know what people will do with the information that other people give. Like let's say someone I'm doing something good in life, right? And then one of my sisters, you know, they go share the news with someone else, right? They might think of it as like they might be like jealousy, or they might feel something like, oh, what are you trying to say by telling me this, right? And I feel like that can lead into gossip. Like, you know, you ever play the game Telephone? And then like it starts off one way and then at the end it becomes something totally different. I feel like that's what gossip is, right? It's like, even though it went in one way, it came out totally different, right? And I feel like if the person themselves who is being talked about, if they want it to be known, I feel like it should be their own right to share the information themselves. But if you're getting the information from another person and not from the own subject themselves, right, then I feel like that's when it starts to kind of become like gossip.
I think there's a difference between gossiping and then our prayers, or I guess confining with someone about a life situation thing. Like if someone were to like comfort to you and say that they're gonna, I guess, you know, take their own life, you know, then it's as your duty to go and tell your youth leaders or your youth coordinators, because that's not gossiping, that's like getting hope. But if you're going to a youth leaders or the youth president and be like, oh, did you hear this girl had dated this mini guy, you know, then that's gossiping right there. But okay, so my second question is then, what causes us to gossip then?
I feel like it's just honestly the nature of a human. I think some people don't like mean to, because I think there's just some people out there who just, they can't like contain like their because you know there's people out there who are horrible at surprises, and I'm not saying that gossiping is like a good thing, but for me, I say it's one way where it's like there's people out there who they just can't contain information, and then another way is just from my thought process is just ill attention, where the person does want to cause some kind of like misunderstanding or cause some kind of like I guess the word is drama, because there's people out there who like drama. I don't know why, but like there's just people like that out there. I think there's many different reasons, but to me, I feel like those are the two that kind of stands out to why gossiping does occur. But I think like for other people it might be different.
Probably when the tea is just too hot. That was a joke.
I think some people I feel like some people maybe it's not intentional, right? Because I feel like gossip it is hard, you know, because I think some people they think of it as like, you know, some people where they just don't like the awkward silence, you know,
They just
and
gotta
then they
share.
just had to share something, right? And I feel like maybe it's not always ill intentions, right? And some people they just want to fill in that silent void, but then maybe they don't know, so then they just bring up like the topics. Like I don't know what really compels people, but some people they just I think it's like they just feel compelled to, right?
I think like sometimes some people just like the reaction, or they just are like, oh, if I say this, like, what would this person like react? Like, oh, are they gonna be like upset? Are they gonna be like hyped? Like when tea is spilled, like people are like, what, really, what? Or sometimes there's other people who are like it's just all reaction, honestly. So there, I feel like there isn't really like a
driving force.
yeah, because I feel like it's different for a lot of people. Just kind of like how you said too, where the awkward silence, and sometimes maybe that's all they know how to like start a conversation, which is to me a very bad way to start a conversation, is by talking about like
Other people.
other
you
people.
heard?
But yeah.
You know, and sometimes, you know, it's not even gossiping, you know, it's just facts. Because, you know, if you're going to tell me, if you got gossip that my bro is 230 pounds, then you guys got to check that.
I feel like now that brings up another question. Like, even if it's a fact, if you say it to other people, wouldn't it still be gossip? Like, for example, like how Egan brought up about like someone's pregnant, right? So if you like, oh, so we're like, oh, so and so is pregnant, right? And let's say it is true, okay? But if you're talking about them and like, you know, like, let's say like, you know, like they're young and like, let's say they're not even married, right? And they're pregnant, right? And you talk about it to other people, wouldn't that still be gossip, even if you fact checked it?
That's true, because I think
Alright.
like gossip itself is not just like rumors, but it could be led by like facts. I think it goes back to I don't know if it's another question, but where it's like, how do you know if it's gossip or if it's like something else? But I think for me, it's like when you say it, or when you're the one speaking to other people about other people's business, like, what's the purpose behind it? Like, what's driving you to like say it? Like, if you're saying it out of concern, like hey, like maybe we should go and like this happened,
Approach.
and maybe, you know, like in that situation, right? I feel like depending on who you are, I think it matters. Like, if you're just like a random person who, like, I'm telling you about like somebody else's business, like, and you had nothing to do with that person, I feel like that is like big time gossip. But if like you're coming from like a concerned point of view, it's like, hey, you like, you're close with this person and I'm also close with this person, like maybe we should like go and just like see if like we could like help in any way, then I feel like it won't be gossip. But
I think that's hard, right?
It
Because then
is.
like as like, let's say for example, you know, as leaders, right, we hear something about our youth, okay, and then it's like to us it's a really concerning matter and we want to address the youth, but let's say they didn't come up to any of us and they didn't tell any of us, right? But then they told another youth, and then another youth told us, right? So then I feel like it would be hard, right? Because then they're like, oh, like, how did you know, right? Because then let's say they say, oh, I only told one other person, right? And I think that's when it gets hard, because then it would make that youth feel some kind of way because their situation that they didn't want to share with us was being talked about, right? And I think that's when it's hard, because then you don't know, right? Or like, let's say like maybe they didn't even tell the youth, and like maybe let's like say youth A, you know, had a situation and youth B and C overheard, right? But then they didn't know if they heard it clearly, and then they came and told a leader, right? it's like, how do you address youth A, right? Because you don't know what's true, what's not true, and then you don't want them to feel like they're being talked about as well, right?
I think at that point, if it's not from, because from what your situation, your scenario, like youth B isn't even really sure, so I think that is considered like I don't want to call it gossiping, but it is considered like it falls under that, where it's like, for me, I wouldn't approach youth A until like youth A decides if they want to share their concerns or not. But I think going on to like that kind of topic was like, for us specifically, like our youth group specifically, like if a youth is confiding into us about like something that they're struggling, like for me, from my own experience, like I would tell them, like, you know, if this concerns like, you know, your spiritual walk, or this concerns, you know, your life, you know, just know that me as a leader, I am like, you know, like, I guess you could say like required to like, you know, let someone of like a higher, I don't know, standing, or like I would go to like my youth coordinator, or I'll go to like pastor, so that, you know, it's not because I want to like spread your rumor, your basically. Yeah, it's because I am concerned, and like I don't want, you know, anything to happen. So that's how I would approach the youth, and let them know, like, if this person comes to you, I'm just letting you know, like, hey, it came from me, right? So that it doesn't cause this misunderstanding, like, oh, who's spreading it? Like, you're the only one I told. So I just kind of tell them straight out, like, hey, you know, if this concerns you spiritually, if this concerns you, like, some kind, like your well-being, just know that, you know, I will be, you know, letting someone know as well, so that I don't myself as a person don't carry that much like burden as well. That sounds kind of like rude, but yeah,
I think that is kind of the scary part about ministry sometimes. It's because we have to do the right thing, and you know, if a person is coming up to us, and you know, as unfortunate as it sounds, you know, if it's a serious matter, it's almost kind of like, you know, the whole church is going to know, because then we have to tell higher authority, because, you know, it's a spiritual matter. We need to kind of address it in a way that will not hinder their growth, and that will, you know, continue to help them prosper. And, you know, even though it is kind of what will happen, and it kind of looks like gossip, it's very hard to really break it down, because then the youth is probably gonna be scared. You know, I just told Pink, the youth president, and now all of a suddenly pastor and the deaconess knows, and all that stuff. It's very hard to kind of draw the line there. I don't know.
I think there needs to be like that trust. I feel like there needs to be that trust of like, okay, if you confide in me, just know that if I go to like another person, it's not me gossiping, right? Because I'm not going to, like, if someone told me, and if I went to Medi, like, for example, if Medi was like some like a higher, I don't want to call it authority, but like a higher, like a standing, like, just trust that I'm not gonna go to her and be like, oh, did you hear like this and this happened, like, oh, like this person's such like this and like that, like I'm not gonna go to that person like and like say it like that. I'm just gonna go to like I would just go to her and be like, you know, there's something that's concerning about like this person, and I'm just gonna bring it up to you, and you know, we could figure out how to move forward from this. It's not me saying like, oh, that person's so bad, they did this and this and this. You know, it's like, oh, there's a concern. Like, we have to.
It's not ill intentions.
Yeah, it's in no mean like ill intention. It's just a way to like help
resolve the situation.
Yes.
Okay. So growing up, you know, I always thought gossiping was only an issue in our Hmong churches, but you know, in a online Hmong forum, you know, there are people who say that they hate growing up in Hmong churches because, you know, they see us as gossiping and not just praise and worshiping. and just causing drama in our Hmong churches. But, do you guys think that gossip is only an issue, in certain churches, like our Hmong churches? Or is it an issue in the body of Christ as a whole?
It's definitely not just in churches. If we watch Greg Anatomy, we know that news flies fast in that field, and in the same way it could fly fast in any other environment. I don't think it's just towards one race specifically among people. I think in general people just talk, and sound travels very fast.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's just in our own like Hmong churches or Hmong community. I feel like everyone in every like churches do gossip, regardless if you're a Hmong church or not. I just think a lot of times, like especially like the Hmong community or the Hmong people, I think we're just more hyper focused onto like our Hmong churches because it's a Hmong church and I'm a Hmong person, so obviously I'm gonna like know more about what goes on, or like I will hear more about what goes on in the Hmong churches compared to like an American church, but I do believe that every church is not perfect. So I feel like no matter how much you say that, oh, this church don't do this or do that, like we're all flawed in our own ways. It could be through gossiping, but I think especially Hmong people, we just share a lot too. Well, I can't speak on like other churches, but like especially in like Hmong churches, I think it's just in our, I guess, community in general where there's just a lot to say. There's just a lot happening. So words do just like fly out.
It's not only, okay, I feel like it's not only the Hmong, but other Asians group too. And not just Asians, but like other groups too. We also gossip. So, it's not just Hmong churches. I think it's every churches. It doesn't matter you're Hmong, Black, Hispanic, or white. Everyone's gonna have people gossiping.
Was there more to the question,
Oh
Samson?
yeah. Okay, so how does gossiping in the church affect the church as a whole body?
I think it does.
Sorry, can you repeat the question one more time?
How does gossiping affect the church as a whole body?
I think it brings, like, when it's a big deal, I think it does kind of discourage a lot of like believers, or it creates like a distrust within like their own church. So I think that's where gossip leads to. And also I think I don't know, did we talk about this or we mentioned it, where gossiping can lead to like people leaving the church as well.
Yeah.
So I think that is one way where gossiping does affect the church.
I feel like taking it from like, I can see it from like, well, speaking on both perspectives, right? So as like a member, right, you would want your leaders, to kind of like have your back, because you're like, oh, you go to church with these people, right? You built a family, a connection with these people, and when things happen, you want them to take your side, to support you, right? But then I feel like from a leader standpoint, you want to have their back, right? But then at the same time, you have to remember that you're a leader and you can't be biased, right? And you really do have to look at everything, right? Like the whole situation. And I think it's hard because it's gossip, right? We don't know what's true, what's not true, because then most time gossip is not that you heard it from a source directly, but you hear like either it's going around you, or like other people are telling it to you that they've heard from other people themselves, right? And I feel like it's like what Ping said, it is true, right? It does create a division and it does break the church, and I feel like it causes people to leave, and I think that's like the saddest thing is like when people, like when the gossip happens, right? And you're trying to resolve it, but then it's not something that can be resolved, right? Because usually when the gossip happens, it's like you either take side A or you take side B. And I feel like rarely do you kind of come to like a resolution about it. And I feel like most times, I feel like the people who are being gossiped about, they end up just like leaving. And I think it's hard because, you know, as Christians, you know, we tell ourselves like, oh, you know, we should love each other as brothers and sisters in Christ, you know, and we shouldn't like slander anyone and stuff. And it's sad when you do lose, you know, like a church member, right? Because you're used to seeing them, you know, every Sunday when you go to church, right? And then one day, you know, they just stop coming. And then every now and then, I feel like you can't help but wonder how they are still doing.
It definitely is hard on the person that's being gossiped about. You know, it's almost a public humiliation, really. You know, as a church, something that we always promote is a family, because everyone has a fear of abandonment. You know, we always need someone to, you know, just kind of know that they're there for us, you know. And when you're, you know, the hot goss topic, you kind of feel like no one is there at your side, you know. Even if you're an extrovert, you know, you feel left out. You feel like there's really no one to talk to. You know, you look around these people you grew up with, and it's like, you know, you don't know if they are really of your family or if they really have your back. And, you know, especially if, you know, you're someone who has, you know, come forth with it too, and you're under discipline, but as a form of correction, it's hard for you to really walk the right spiritual path if you're on TV news in our church.
It's like it just feels like you're in the hot seat, right? All eyes are on you.
And, you know, it's hard to maintain a perfect image because, you know, well, your reputation is technically already ruined. So, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, especially in today's world where gossiping is just not in person no more, guys. Gossiping is now online. As, you know, online forum like Facebook, Instagram, and all that. You know, gossiping is now like everywhere online. But, okay, so, you know, as churches, you know, we're supposed to discipline people who gossip in the church and cause division, as we should, you know. And it says so in Matthew chapter 8, verse 15 to 17. If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. But if he does not listen, take one or two others along with you, like that every charges may be established by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. If he refuses to listen to them, tell them to the church. If he refuses to listen to even the church, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. And so, you know, we all know that gossip exists, and there are people who, you know, the gossipers, you know, they have the power to divide and cause drama in our church. But yet, we don't see our church disciplining the people who cause the division. And so why do you guys think we don't discipline them, or we don't see our churches disciplining people who gossip?
Let me pull up a Bible verse. In the meantime, someone else can speak.
I think it is hard, right? Because they are still your brothers and sisters in Christ, right? And it's hard because you don't want to offend anyone, right? It's crazy because you want to stay as neutral as possible, but sometimes being neutral isn't possible. And really, it's like you want to get down to it, but then you don't want to address it because people might take it the wrong way, right? Like when you approach with good intentions, people might not always take it as good intentions, right? And then people, you know, I think our automatic reaction is to be defensive, right? I feel like whether it's good or bad, I feel like the moment that we know someone's talking about us or spreading some gossip about us, we can't help but feel like, oh, why are they talking about us, you know? And I feel like as leaders, when we approach people, I feel like that's the hard part, right? Is not knowing how they're going to react, right? Because ideally, you'd want everyone to kind of like get along, and you want people to just be like, oh, you know, they're approaching me because they just have good intentions. But the truth is, it's not that easy, right? And I think that's the hard part for people is the approach.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't you want to take out the cancer before it spreads?
I mean, that is like, but I think the hard part is like how you're saying. I think it's like the confrontation. Like, from my experience, or just me personally, I am the type to not like confrontation. So if like it is brought to me, right? If I know that this is happening, like I would feel like, oh, like I don't want to offend anyone. Like I don't want to come off like I'm taking anyone's side. And I think that's where like a lot of times churches don't like discipline like the gossipers or the ones spreading like these narratives. It's because it's like in my mind, how I say it is like, I don't want, like, if there's already drama, I don't want to cause more drama, right? But I think that's the non-leader perspective. So it's like when you're in that position of a leader, you have to understand, like, I'm not addressing them as like myself. I'm addressing them as, oh, the youth president. I'm addressing them as the pastor. I'm addressing them as the elder. You know, like, I think we have to get into that mindset of like, it's for the peace of the church, not like for the peace of myself, because yeah, in my heart, in my whole being, I don't want to be the one confronting anyone, or I don't want to be the one addressing the issue, because I don't want to, you know, be caught up in all that. But you can't help but be caught up in that because of the position that you are in. So I think anyone can say, like going back to what you're saying, you're talking about like, oh, don't you want to get rid of the cancer before it spread? Like, anyone can say that, but when you're put into that position, it's harder to do than say. Wait, no,
It's harder to say than do.
no. The action is harder than when you speak, because it's easy to say like, oh yeah, like we should go and like address that person.
So it's easier to say than do.
Yes, that's the quote.
I just want to comment, sorry, real fast on what he said, right? About the cancer, okay? The thing is, cancer doesn't have feelings. It's like you can't, because you're dealing with a human and another human,
Emotions.
right? Another emotion. Okay, cancer. It's like it's what is it? A virus. It's cancerous. Okay, it's bad, right? It does what it does, you know. But we're dealing with another human, right? Like, people's lives are at stake. You know, like what Ekin said earlier. You know, this is their reputation, right? This is them, right? And as you guys know, what we said, you know, like rumor, you know, gossip, it spreads fast. Okay, and like I feel like once it's spread, how do you like undo all the damage that you've done, right? So I feel like we can't compare it to cancer.
Yeah, I think like discipline is like, it does need to happen, because if the verse itself, it calls us to, you know, do that. But I think it's just the force behind it, where it's the hard part, where like how you're saying, we're humans, we're dealing with emotions. It's how you approach them, right? We don't want to come off as like someone who's trying to condemn them for like what they done. Like, we as believers, as followers of Christ, we have to come like from a place of love, right? And we have to kind of make that known to, if we're disciplining someone, that has to be known that we're not coming to judge you for what you said or what you've done. Like, we're coming to address you as like, hey, you know, we heard this has happened. We heard that like you did this and that, and we just want to let you know, like, it is not something that we should be doing. But I think in the church itself, not a lot of churches discipline that I know of. Okay. That I know of, like, they don't discipline because it's almost like, in their thought, it's like, okay, it'll just blow over. Oh, you know, we'll just sweep it under the rug. Like, we'll forget about it. And, you know, if it happens another time, like, then we'll address it. Right. I think a lot of times that's what a lot of churches do, where it's like, okay, we'll just wait and see where it goes. But yeah,
I think it's one of the reason why is because we are afraid we might lose that person too. And especially a lot of people are very defensive about their feelings, right? When you confront them, they probably says, "Oh, this person does it too," and especially if you are a leader, struggling, and maybe you're low key a gossiper too, but not really, high key. But yeah, anyways, okay. But what I'm saying is, I think what the verse that Samson brings out is something that's really beautiful, and because it does show that we as family of Christ have the authority and have the power to help correct things, right? And I feel like sometimes we don't correct things because we feel like we're not the perfect image to correct that. We often hear a lot of Bible verses about how before we judge other, we need to take out the speck out of our eyes too. But there was another verse that I do want to bring up, and it's in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 6 through 10. I'm not really going to read all of it. I'm going to just read about half of it. And it says, this is Paul speaking, by the way. And it says, "Even if I should choose to boast, I would not be a fool, because I would be speaking the truth. But I refrain so no one will think more of me than is warranted by what I do or say, or because of these surprisingly great revelations." And I think this is a beautiful verse because it's Paul saying that he's not a perfect person. He's done a lot of things before he became Paul, but he's also saying that even though if I'm not the best image to say this, it's something that still needs to be done. It is something that still needs to be corrected. And basically it's saying that we shouldn't be afraid to correct things. And I don't want to put it like this way, but not afraid to judge too, because it's already something that God has already judged in the Bible itself, and it's kind of us helping another person stay aligned with the Bible, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as Christians, I totally agree. Like it is hard to approach people and be like, or discipline them, or approach them with that authority tone and be like, oh, like, boom, we heard you did this, all that, and you were gonna, I don't know, kick you out of the church. It's hard to approach people like that, or any kind of tone. But as the Bible verse is stating, it does say that we do have to discipline people who cause division in the church, because if we don't, then always keep our church they're gonna split our church, and our church is not gonna be unity no more. But as conclusion, let's look at Proverbs chapter 20 verse 19, and it says, "One who goes about as a slanderer reveals secrets, therefore do not associate with gossip." This Bible verse, it tells us how to avoid people who are gossipers. And I know, some of us are guilty of gossiping about other people, and feeding to other people's gossiping. But, we just got to learn not to give in to Satan's temptation. We just got to learn that gossiping is bad, and that, God does not like gossipers. And, if we ever find ourselves in a circle and you hear or people are just gossiping in that circle, then try to either redirect the conversation or leave that group. Just do nothing, because it will grow bigger, and like we said, it will destroy our church. So I hope you guys liked today's episode about gossiping in the church, and hope you guys subscribe to our YouTube and check out our Instagram and Facebook. So see you guys next time.